Thank you for auditing the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who's going to talk about the whole album Might Delete Later by J. Cole. The best song on this album, the best bars on this album have nothing to do with the Kendrick beef. But unlike my review of Metro Boomin and Future's album, where I went to great lengths to sort of minimize my discussion of the beef that was started by Kendrick Lamar's guest verse, I am going to spend a fair amount of time, especially here at the beginning, discussing this beef and its greater meaning. The reason I didn't do it for Metro Boomin and Future is that's a disservice to what is a great album. You know, it's just one little tiny section of it. But this J. Cole project, it seems as though this is the primary reason for its existence, which therefore justifies me pontificating about it a little bit here. Now, I'm lucky because I listened to the album all the way through before I paid attention to the narrative around it. And it's always interesting when you do that, when you know you're thinking about something controversial. The same thing happened when I heard the Kendrick verse for the first time. I was just in the restroom in the middle of the night, and I saw that the Future Metro Boomin album came out, and it came out of nowhere. I had no idea that Kendrick was going to be on the album. So I listened to this whole thing, and I made my thoughts, and I had my thoughts, and then there I was this morning, just clicking through YouTube, and there's two videos by a couple of great creators, FD Signifier, probably my favorite YouTuber, and Anthony Fantano. He's the greatest competitor to me. If there's some way that a gnat can compete with a dinosaur, that's the way that I'm competing here. I don't know which one of us would be Drake and which one of us would be Cole, but that doesn't matter. You can tell me in the comments if you have thoughts on that. But they're great. They're great takes, especially FD Signifier goes into the nature of how ego plays into Kendrick's work and how it doesn't play into J. Cole's work, which really makes everything he does when he talks about rap is great. It's always one level better than what you think it might be, just clicking on some random video about hip-hop on YouTube. But both of them really went into it and had basically the same conclusion. He failed. Cole did not deliver on a counterpunch, okay? He did not counterpunch. He got slapped around on that verse, on like that, and then his response was like, but it's not just that he didn't do it well. The fundamental thing that everyone is saying, and this goes beyond FD Signifier and Fantano, it basically boils down to the entire internet walking up to J. Cole in a hardware store and just saying, "You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy, pal." Remember that meme from like 8 years ago? That's what it is. You just think like, you're not that guy. You're not that guy, Cole. You can't go. You're so not that guy that even when you're going after someone in a battle rap, you give him compliments and tell him that you don't want to battle him, okay? You're punching somebody in the middle of a punch. You're like, I don't want to use this hand for violence, frankly. I don't want to do this. Like, that's what he's doing. But still, you miss a lot. You miss a lot when you just reduce this album down to the final track. My biggest complaint is that the whole album is about the Kendrick beef. I mean, it's sprinkled throughout, okay? It's got more beef than bulgogi, okay? Let's came up with that off the dome. Not funny. The 7-minute drill is the final track, and I'll discuss it at the end. But I want to take the whole album with all of its many disses and just think about really why did J. Cole fail? Why is this perceived of as like one of the funniest like own goals? Who was that in basketball? I know J. Cole is a really good basketball player, right? He went to St. John's University and played basketball there. There was the guy who thought that they were up and he held onto the ball and let the time run out, and like they just lost the game because he didn't know what time it was. I forget who did that. It was like a famous guy too. Point is, that's basically what he did here. He just like self-error. But first of all, let's just say that losing a battle against Kendrick Lamar, going back to basketball, it's like losing a game of one-on-one with Michael Jordan. Well, yeah, he lost, but he was on the same court, which is something else. And I want to go further. It's not just that J. Cole missed, because he didn't fully miss. It's that when he hit, he didn't do any damage. The much maligned movie The Force Awakens has a lot of great scenes in it. And there's a character called Elo Asti, in honor of the Beastie Boys' Hello Nasty. And it's in the X run on the Death Star, or the Star Killer planet, whatever the hell the Death Star is in that one. And he's flying his X-Wing, and he said, "Direct hit, but no damage." And that's how I felt listening to every single Kendrick Diss on here. Just like, but no damage. You just really got this feeling that he was landing. He was like at a shooting range with a Nerf gun. And it's like bullseyes every time, but they just go bouncing off. And it just makes you seem goofier. And it invites all of these metaphors, all of these. It's part of the reason why I like this beef so much, is because it's really creating a lot of interesting and creative ways of thinking about this. Probably the most immediate reaction I had was a fancy pants, snooty ass response. This is Blaise Pascal. He's one of my favorite philosophers. And my wife really likes Pascal in particular for one of his quotes, where he said, "Je vous écris une longue lettre parce que je n'ai pas le temps d'en écrire une courte." I would have written less, but I didn't have the time. Okay? Do you understand? Like this album, and even if you just know that one song is multiple verses. This is an entire album responding to a single verse. This is what, 20 bars on Kendrick's verse? Not even that. I mean, some of them are just him just being like, bum, right? Like I'm counting the word bum as an entire bar. And there's something about that where Kendrick's verse was so concise. You had like 5 flows. He had 5 different hits in different directions. He's doing the thing of where he's proving that he's better by being better, but then also by putting them down. And it is just so much more effective and so efficient, and it feels easy. It's not. Kendrick worked very hard on this verses, I'm positive, right? I mean, he's really, on that one verse, I mean, he's thinking a lot about it. This is a very conscious decision to start this thing or to keep this thing going. Whereas J. Cole just felt like he's like, all right, well, I'll throw some shots at him here, and okay, I'll throw some shots in here, there, and then I'll do a verse about it here, but was that enough? Should I do a second verse? Now I'm saying that as someone who releases like hour and a half videos when everyone else releases 20-minute videos, okay? So I am responsible. I don't have the time to give you short videos. That's part of the reason my videos are so long. I don't want to edit. I don't want to pare down my thoughts. If I want to go on some kind of random tangent, I want to be able to go on that, and that's because I don't have the time to make it smaller. But I think the other aspect of it that makes this an own goal, that makes this an unforced error, is his voluntary framing in the Nas versus Jay-Z battle, okay? So he directly quotes, or indirectly quotes, okay? So the line from Jay-Z is 4 albums in 10 years, I could divide. That's one every, let's say 2 of them shits was due, the other was nah, the other was Illmatic. That's a 1 hot album in every 10-year average. God damn, I remember hearing that song for the first time and going, is that a Doors sample? Who produced this? What maniac produced this song? I hope he doesn't. Anyways, it was Kanye. And then here, after taking a shot at The Simpsons, fair, he says, your first shit was classic, your last shit was tragic, your second shit put uns asleep, but they gassed it, your third shit was massive, and that was your prime. And then he even goes later and he does the whole division. He talks about the way, how many albums he releases in a year. That's 4 albums I can divide. So he's intentionally evoking the Nas and Jay-Z, creating a kind of analogy, right? Analogy is when you have one is to the other as the other is to the other, right? That's SATs, you have to check those. Most standardized tests that involve English involve analogies. So, Jay-Z is to Nas as Kendrick is to J. Cole. Okay. In terms of talent, it's possible. I don't think it's probable, but it's possible, okay? It sort of makes sense. But when it comes to this beef, they just don't have it, okay? Napoleon Bonaparte, very interesting figure. often decried as just simply a dictator. He wasn't. He was a champion of democracy and of the French Revolution up until he decided to become a dictator and an emperor. Okay, it's very sad. It's so sad that Beethoven crossed out Eroica, renamed his symphony because he was so disappointed that Napoleon became an emperor after being a leader of a republic. Okay? Around 50 years later, his nephew, Napoleon III, was elected president, 1848, after another French Revolution, probably a more consequential revolution, 1848. It was a very big deal. Study history, it's interesting. And what we had there was a second republic. So after Napoleon I was exiled and came back and was exiled, there's a whole bunch of just monarchies and different forms of monarchies. And eventually they have this revolution. And what do? They elect a Napoleon, okay? By 1852, Napoleon III declared himself emperor, and we had the Second Empire. I only mention this because this is an interesting point in world history because of a famous philosopher, historian, guy named Karl Marx, was alive at the time and made a famous comment about it. A quote that is often cited but is rarely contextualized properly. And I think the context of having a second Napoleon defend democracy, champion democracy, and destroy democracy in one lifetime is wild. This is what Marx said. Hegel remarks somewhere that all great world historic facts and personages appear, so to speak, twice. He forgot to add, the first time as tragedy, the second time as farce. That's the origin of that quote. I learned of that when George Bush Jr. was elected president. Okay, now my father immediately said, oh my God, this is the second time as farce. And it totally works. Maybe that's what it'll be when President Tucker Carlson gets elected. I don't know. Okay? But what I like about this is that's how I feel this is. This is a farce. Like the first battle between Jay-Z and Nas were these two great giants who were at each other's throat and just throwing haymakers. And of course, it wasn't actually violent, fortunately. It was just all with words. But now we have this light, dramatic composition marked by an improbable plot. Okay? That's what this is. That's the actual definition of a farce in theater. A light dramatic composition marked by a broadly satirical comedy and improbable plot. But it's not just Cole. Neither of them mean it. You listen to that Kendrick verse, he's not going after Cole either. What makes this so fascinating, what makes this like a farce, is that they want you to feel like it's two dudes on the street getting into a street fight, smashing the bottle and trying to get at each other's necks, and the whips and the chains and the throwing the chairs over each other's and just a knockdown bloody fight. But no, these two guys respect the rules. They respect the boundaries. These are not street fighters. These are Olympic boxers with headgear, okay? They have read all the ordinances and they know what is and is not acceptable. They're not pulling punches, they're hitting as hard as they can, but fundamentally, neither one of them wants to hurt the other. They don't want to take the other out. Kendrick Lamar does not want to end J. Cole's career. He might want to end Drake's career, but that's a different question. J. Cole certainly doesn't want to end Kendrick's career. So, that's how I think of this, as a farcical recreation of the olden days with Ether and Jay-Z, all that. Right? And just one more thing. In his weird assessment of Kendrick Lamar's discography, which was the biggest mistake you can make. Like, you can't come at Kendrick Lamar's discography. You can't do it. I mean, like what, anyways, your first shit was classic, your last shit was tragic. Just to be this is why my videos are too long, because I'm going to throw one more little thing on here. The official definition of a tragedy is a play dealing with the tragic events and having an unhappy ending, especially one concerning the downfall of a main character. Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers is kind of a tragedy. One more little funny note. Do you know the etymology, the origin of the word tragedy? It actually comes from the word song and goat. So yes, if you want to be a super wise ass, be like, thank you, Cole. It's true. The last album were songs from the GOAT. So now that we've established this is a fake ass rivalry by two fake ass boxers who don't want to hurt each other, why am I talking about it? Is it just to make a bunch of fun points and make sure that you know the origin of the quote, first time as tragedy, second time as farce? Partly that. But also, it's important. It's good. When I talked about Kendrick's verse, I said that he is the savior of rap because this is an important thing to have. Like, oh my God! See, I should have looked this up. There's some line from Godfather. Please tell me in the comments what it is. But it's something like, "It's good to go to war every couple years. Keeps the blood fresh." Something like that. Like you need to have something like this. You need to have two people who really respect the craft. And not you, Drake. I'm fine with Drake, but he does not respect the craft of hip hop. Okay, I'm not saying he's not a good hip hop artist. I'm not saying he's not a genius in his own way. I'm just saying his goal is not the craft of writing rhymes and delivering them in the most effective way possible. We need that. So even if it's farce, even if it's a farce of Jay-Z versus Nas, it's still producing something very interesting. And also, like, what are you going to rap about? What are these dudes pushing 40 going to rap about? Okay, they can talk about their traumatic upbringing, which they have, and obviously Kendrick has shown that he's really branching out in a lot of interesting stuff about trauma and recovery and stuff like that. But money, cars, diamonds, all that. Fundamentally, when we get down to like what is the essence of, what is the essential, and this is just me, I am a commentator on hip hop culture. I'm not a maker of hip hop culture. I do not consider myself to be an expert on hip hop life. I try to study the art, and in the best estimation that I can make, there's one sentence that is the definition of what rap music is about. You might be mad because I'm not going to say fight the power. I'm not going to say fight for equality. I don't believe that is the fundamental unit of expression in hip-hop. I believe the fundamental expression of hip-hop is I am the best. The best part is important. The I am part is the most important. Okay, making yourself seen in a world that does not want to see you and does not want to recognize you. From that one sentence, I am the best, flows everything else. Flows the consciousness, flows the money, flows the grills, flows the tipping on faux foes wrapped in faux vogues, okay? From that one sentence, I am the best, and the need to believe it and the need to prove it comes everything that is great about this culture that I am trying to talk about now. So, diss tracks are great because it is just, I'm the best. You think you're the best? I'm the best. Oh, you think you're the best? No, 1 second. I'm the best. I'm really, 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 really good. Oh yeah? I'm really, 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 really good. +1. That, you keep that going, you can have a lot of great art. To go one step further, do I say that too much? I always talk about going one step further. I don't have a script. I just have notes. And so I don't know what all my little filler words are. You can tell me in the comments, what are the filler words I use too much? Probably fundamentally I use too much. I like that word, fundamentally. At least I don't say actually. Why I think this is interesting isn't just that it's this great battle between great wordsmiths, but it's going back to that thing that FD Signifier hinted at. The ego versus non-ego. And this is the J. Cole-ness of this project that makes it great to me. That J. Cole, the hardest thing about J. Cole is that I don't think he has anything to prove. I said that in another video recently. That's the strongest thing you can say as a man, okay? If you truly want to say that you are the #1 alpha Chad Mew looks maxing dog in the whole world, all you have to believe is I've got nothing to prove. Once you've done that, you are set. You're just done. Because everyone else is going to be little tiny dogs pepping and barking and saying, I'm the best, I'm the best. As far as I can tell, J. Cole is maybe like alone in rap history as being a dude who, as far as I can tell, legitimately is just pretty cool with who he is and his faults. Now, I don't know his discography super well. I'm basing that on his last album and on this. I did try to review King of Drugs, but I disliked it so much that I didn't review it. It could be a good album, by the way. When I first heard it, I was like, ugh. I didn't like that. But it's the thing that I think people are missing is that when they say, oh, this isn't it. That's not you, pal. J. Cole, that's not how you win a rap beef. You don't win a rap beef by being reluctant. You don't win a rap beef by calling it might delete later, indicating that you might not even mean half the stuff that you're saying. That's not how you win a rap beef. Actually, fundamentally, in the end, to go further, that's how J. Cole wins a beef. That's how he would win a beef, is by being reluctant, is by being open about his flaws, is by having nothing to prove. When I think about this battle, it left me with so many funny images. and one of them is that if you ever play video games with your mom, and this is being very gendered, okay? At this point, most of my viewers are young, so a lot of you might have had moms who grew up playing video games, okay? My mom grew up in the 50s and 60s, so video games were not her thing. They weren't my dad's thing either, but he just couldn't deal with any of that stuff, so there's no question. But I remember vividly playing Air-Sea Battle on the Atari 2600 with my mom. Very exciting, because you want to play with somebody, you know? And that's how it feels. That's what this beef is like. This album, J. Cole is like Kendrick's mom, being like, oh, you'd like me to play with you? Oh, okay. Pew. You know, doesn't quite know how to hold the controller, doesn't quite understand what the button does, you know? And like, that's the strength of J. Cole's perspective here. Like, I will do you the favor of playing this game with you. That's what I will do. I will do you the favor of playing this with you. Also reminds me a little bit of Marge playing basketball. Watch out for the Shaq attack! But that's a whole specific Simpsons reference. And I've got way too many Simpsons, because he called out the Simpsons for falling off, which, by the way, late era Simpsons, there's a lot of gems. Do some research. There's a lot of great episodes in the last 15 years. But the other image I had is there's a thing where they had those little sponges and you pour water on them and they expand. And there's one point where Bart gets one and he thinks that the dinosaur is going to get into this giant dinosaur that picks him up and eats him, but it's just a sponge, so it's just watery. That's the other image I have, is these two dinosaurs fighting each other, but instead of teeth, they're just little sponges. However, there's one exception. I just keep coming up with metaphors. You know when you're playing with your friends, okay? Like sticks, right? Like you ever play like lightsabers with sticks? Like your friend or your brother, and you pick up a stick and you play and you hit each other, and you're not trying to hurt each other, right? You're just hitting sticks outside in the backyard. You're bored, whatever. All you got is Air-Sea Battle on Atari 2600. You don't got much to do. You're just sitting there and you're hitting sticks back together 100% of the time. 100% of the time, at some point, one of you accidentally, maybe on purpose, hits the other on the knuckles. Now, you've been hitting each other on the body, like on the leg here and there, but there's one hit. And that ends the game, because the other one gets angry and either tries to hit back or says, dude, what the fuck, that hit, dude, that hurt. Dude, that actually hurt. Dude, bro, dude, that actually hurt. In all of what's been happening in this entire album of overt and covert Kendrick disses, in that entire verse, there are exactly two lines which are hitting the other on the knuckles. And weirdly enough, it's J. Cole. And this is why I want to emphasize that part of the narrative that's been made around this, I think Fantano was talking a lot about this, is that J. Cole is actually trying to de-escalate, and I think that's true. He refers to this beef as a, he says, this is a warning shot. That's what he says. Sorry, the light is so weird when it reflects off my floor. I gotta move here so I don't look like the freaking guy at the end of Indiana Jones, because I'm like melting. Whew. I gotta remember what my point was. So I do think he was trying to de-escalate. Kind of. Except for this line. Your arms might be too short to box with the god who live his life without the pressures of a constant facade. Dude, he escalated. This is the actual first escalation. Because first of all, it's a short joke, because Kendrick Lamar is not very tall. I remember seeing him in Toronto when he performed back in 2013, and that was literally the first thing I thought. And I didn't know what he looked like at all. I didn't know his music. I was like, wow, I haven't seen someone look that small on stage since I saw Prince at the Boston Garden. True. Okay, I just had that feeling. Big presence, but a small body. But living his life without the pressures of a constant facade, like if you could really try to dig at Kendrick, if you could really try to get at it, implying that his sort of holier than thou, super wise beyond his years, savior who is too busy telling you he's not your savior, more than like fucking Life of Brian MC, what I'm saying? Just like going on and on and on about this, to call it a facade, that actually stung. That's the only bar out of all this beef that actually hurts. And I would imagine if Kendrick Lamar's ego is as touchy as it seems, he'll jump on that, and that might be the line that actually starts it. Because the line that started it was Cole being like, I'm so happy to have, this is off of a first-person shooter, I'm so happy to be a rapper. There's other good rappers, and I'm one of them. Sometimes I feel like I'm the best. Okay? Kendrick heard that. It was like, remember in Predator when they got the chain gun, and they just blow the entire jungle apart. Just goes absolutely super hard at them. And this whole album is a response to that, and there's only one hit. So I said, but no damage. There might be a little damage. What I find super interesting about this is the presence of Cole, like who he is. And now I want to talk a little bit more about other stuff with the album while the light continues to do all sorts of weird stuff. It's okay, the eclipse is happening soon, so I was going to do a video about music about the eclipse, but there's just not enough good stuff. Earl Sweatshirt is a good song called The Eclipse. So while we're talking about Drake and we're talking about Kendrick, it feels to me that, those old like cartoons and stuff. Sorry, I just have to keep moving because now the light is like coming from underneath. I look like a ghoul. I look like a little green ghoul, buddy. See what I'm saying? It's like lighting up from there. All right, I'm gonna take this towel, I'm gonna take this blanket, put that there so it diffuses the light. Okay, finally, we're better. So you remember in the cartoons when they have like the devil on the shoulder and the angel on the other shoulder? That's sort of how it feels. It feels like with Cole, there's the devil on his shoulder, which is Drake, which is trying to get him to be, hey, come tour with me. Hey, have more singing in your stuff. Hey, it's cool to be vulnerable, but can you also insult women at the same time as you're vulnerable? That would be pretty lit. And then on the other side, he has like Kendrick being like, don't you want to be the illest MC? Don't you want to be the smartest? Don't you want to be conscious while also mainstream? Don't you want to do all those things? I feel like this album, I feel like that tension is in between them. He's sort of like, in like the great hood movies of the 90s, like the protagonist is like usually this well-meaning guy who's not a full-time criminal, but he sort of gets seduced into a life of crime, and maybe it's like small time, maybe it's big time. Sometimes they get killed at the end, sometimes not. I sort of feel like that's Cole's persona. So the image I had was O-Dog from Menace to Society being the devil on one side, and then maybe Doughboy from Boys in the Hood on the other side, and they're sort of like pulling at him to like, be more pop, be more hip hop. The other complaint about this album is that it's like not a thing. It's just like put together. It's just like nothing, like some random beats that were kicking around, and then he just threw on some Kendrick disses to make it go. I don't buy that. I don't. I actually want to give him more credit than that. But it does feel like it's a mixtape that is designed to get you hyped up for his real album, The Fall Off, which I am going to guess is going to be great. That's my prediction. I don't think anything's taking out Schoolboy Q this year. God damn, that album. I listened to that album again the other day. Whew. Anyways, as far as themes in this album, it's basically, a lot of it's about Kendrick. A lot of it is about not getting women pregnant. You know, that's part of this whole thing. You know, just like I just don't want to get women pregnant. A lot of it is about being in his prime. A lot of it is probably too long. It's probably too long of an album, I would say, especially for a mixtape, and especially for an album that people just jump to the end. But I'm not going to jump to the end. I'm going to go through the album track by track, including the best track on the album, which has virtually nothing to do with the Kendrick beef. Before I do, if you like this video, 30 minutes in, and you've been watching this, you've been watching me sweat my ass off with this stupid reflection. Look, do you see? See, this is what I've been dealing with over there. You see, I got my 2 dogs down there and the sun. I had to do all that. So please smash the like bucket to recompense me for my emotional and intellectual labor. Subscribe if you haven't. If you want to leave a comment that says AVAA, that stands for awesome video as always, or ass video as always if you don't like my videos. But I will always heart that. Even if you're secretly calling my videos ass, I will heart them. How humiliating for me. Okay, so the album begins with Pricey. Right off the bat, the weird nature of this album becomes clear. It has Ari Lennox singing this cool verse that seems like it's all about him being cool, but then it seems like he takes a shot at Kendrick right away. You pillow soft, so kill the boss talk. Me to use a cyanide pill to a little cough drop. This is the Ville filled of hard knocks. They sell in hard rock more plugs than these got used to fill a bald spot. All of his creativity, all of his funniness here. Me to use a cyanide pill to a cough drop. That's just a very good line. That's just nice. You know, that's what I guess J. Cole brings. That's why if he's one of the greatest, that's why. It's because he has the creativity to do that. Also talking about not being tardy because you get detention, you know, implying that people who are late go to jail. It's beautiful. It's a fine beat. It's not great. It's by J. Cole and Dizzle. This sort of like dicey, pricey thing by Young Drop. It's like, it's fine, but it's kind of at odds with his verse. And then we get some of his trademark honesty. And that's why the hit on Kendrick was so rough. Is that Kendrick is honest, but it's such a part of his like posturing as being a superior being, right? Like his like, I'm so honest. I'm the best at being honest. I'm the most humble, you know, that kind of thing. Whereas when J. Cole says, you know, lately my biggest addiction has been looking online. That's relatable. Thanks, Jay. And then he says he only listens to Farrakhan. Dude. You just gonna let that one fly? I mean, I talked a lot about Farrakhan on this channel. When I grew up, Farrakhan was like one of my heroes because I grew up listening to Public Enemy. He has a lot of controversial views. I'm not sure that's the best thing. This is the first time on the album where he talks about being in his prime. Breaking news, I've officially entered my prime. What's real interesting is this is the point where a rapper would typically start to decline. Somehow I climbed. Beautiful rhyming, repetition, prime, decline, climbed, all that stuff. And it does he have something to prove now? Is that it? Is he actually, was I wrong that he's trying to prove that he isn't declining because he's in his prime? Or is he just confident in that prime? I don't know. Next track is called Crocodile Tears. What's the deal? What's the deal? Beyonce released a song called Alligator Tears. What's the deal? What? Crocodile Tears? Alligator Tears? I would say what's next? Some other reptile tears. What I like about this is the beat here. I was like, this is a boring piano line. But then like there's some like guitar that comes from behind and some kind of like drill drum beats come in, and then Cole's flow is this kind of tired flow, which is different than the others. And this is why I think it's important not to just skip to the part where it's just talking about Kendrick, because this is some interesting stuff. I'm Joaquin Phoenix, walk the line, I'm about cash. Like, he might be, like, I think nobody walks the line of corny. Okay. How many movie references can I throw in? One of my favorite lines from the movie Spinal Tap is said by Nigel Tufnell. And it's such a fine line between clever and stupid. Okay? And that's what it is with the punchlines of J. Cole. Like, every single time he delivers a punchline, you're like, is that clever or stupid? It's such a fine line. But I do like how he refers to his new album as being his Reasonable Doubt, like doing Reasonable Doubt last. That's a fascinating idea. They sound faded, they downgraded, they Pluto. Is he referencing Future here? It seems like he is. And then he has a verse about like biting hands, and it just sounds like a Drake verse. Next track is Ready 24. Kind of a weak, pitched up soul sample. I don't know. It's fine. Talks about like living around crack fiends again, something he really seems to insist on talking about. Cameron's on here. He's fine. This is where the album really kind of loses it. And then Huntin' Wabbits is a little bit better, produced by T-, who's like the main producer on this album. It's apparently some YouTube video about the Looney Tunes sketch of Hunting Wabbits with Elmer Fudd. I don't know. This sort of reminds me of when Kanye used that weird internet meme in his video. Like, should rappers be using internet memes? I don't know. But it's a nice sleepy beat, kind of oddly like off and eerie. At certain times, a cool kind of like double up on the snare, kind of sleepy rhymes. Again, super into Plan B and not getting women pregnant. Now the click looks empty like Chick-fil-A on a Sunday. Clever or stupid? I can't tell. HYB, this is cool. This one's not. I sort of didn't like this one the first couple times I heard it, but then I realized, okay, this is the Drake on his shoulder who's telling him to make a pop song. It's pretty good. I like the soul sample. I've got bad news for you. And the whole theme, hide your bitch, hide your wife. Weird thing is, so when I listen to music, I watch movies at the same time with sound off while I'm exercising. That's just the life of an ADHD superstar, right? And so I'm there. I was going to say king, but I thought that was too cheesy. So I said superstar instead. If I edited it, it'd be better. So I'm there and I'm on the elliptical, and I decided to watch Hellraiser. I'd actually still never seen Hellraiser, but I watched the first half with the sound off while listening to the J. Cole album. And there's a whole scene there where the guy should have hid his wife. Yeah. The beat kind of gets faster and slower. It starts off with Boss starting. I really like Boss. I almost reviewed the album. His 187 Deli, 178 Deli was like one of the best rap songs last year, and I haven't talked about it anywhere. And I've been to that deli like many times. So it's kind of weird, but he is a real treasure of a rap artist. Like, this is the other thing that I think Cole can stand on. Like, Dreamville rules. Like, whenever PG Tips comes out, or PG Lang, whatever it is that Kendrick is going to do. Top Dog was great, but that's not Kendrick's show, right? He was on it, but that wasn't his show. Like, are there rappers who start their own boutique label that hit as many times as Cole does? And does it not make sense that somebody who has this kind of affability, this kind of lack of defensiveness, would be the person who draws these people towards him? Is not the best indicator of him being the guy that he says he is, that he has such a great label? I mean, Dreamville is just outstanding. Okay. And Boss is one of the reasons. Kind of a faster style here from J. Cole. He gets out of his sleepy bag there. I'm allergic to... I'm allergic to cap. I can't hear these rap without an EpiPen. Clever or stupid? You tell me. I think it's clever, but if you say stupid, I wouldn't argue with you. He also goes through the alphabet without any L. I don't think that's making the clever. But then he refers to himself, Boss, and Sench as NATO, which I like because they were born in Germany, France, and UK, respectively. That's kind of funny, and they work in the States. And Central C, is that how you pronounce his name? Has maybe the best verse on the song, like one of the best verses on the album. The next track is Fever. Here's my quote. Let's see if you can read along with me. Fever. maybe hang out less with Drake, because it's cool. But I'm on the road, and yeah, I'm thinking about you running through hoes, and now I think I forgot you. How could I do that? The vibe you had, all that fight you had on you. I want them, but I want you too. How can both these things be true? To be fair to J. Cole, there's something about the way that he does it that doesn't feel as creepy and mean as Drake. But still, it's the same basic idea. Like, girl, I love you, and I'm having sex with everybody else but you. And also, I love you. Why are you so cold to me? While I'm... Right? It's just... Next track is Sticks and Stones. And this is why the discourse is lazy as hell. Everyone just on Twitter is like, oh, okay, well, there's the clap back against Kendrick. It's called 7 Minute Drill. I'll listen to that one song. I'll comment on that. And then I will plug my ears and pretend the album never existed. This is a whole song all about the Kendrick beef. Ooh, it's a solid beat. Got some tight drums, some harp sounds. I'm listening to this. I'm like, this is a good beat on here. And it's The Alchemist. But the bass, there's a co-producer, and my prediction, I don't know. Maybe I will ask The Alchemist on Instagram. We'll see. My prediction is that the other producer just did the bass, because the bass here sounds a little bit too clean, a little bit too, like, polished for, not that The Alchemist couldn't do a polished beat, but he chooses not to. I get the sense that's where the other producer comes in. He does his great fast and smooth, right? Is there a smoother rapper when they rap fast than J. Cole? I don't know. Sticks and stones may break your bones, but saying my name in a verse will kill. Word to the wise, we heard these lies before. My number ones come from albums, theirs is from burgers and fries to go. Go against me, your odds is low. I ain't even got no ops for real. I just give me my props for real. I done everything. I'm about to chill. Count the mills and cribs on tops of hills. Mad chips, cash rich, my stash thick. I'm Dr. Phil, stash thick. I'm Steve Harvey, stash thick. I don't know. Is he the first? Is he the first person to think of that? Is he the first person to shoot that? Because that's a really funny idea. And I feel like that's going to open up a whole realm of people just being like, okie doke, stash thick like Tom Selleck, stash thick, your stash short like Adolf, your stash short, your stash short like, who's Napoleon Dynamite's brother? Like him. Anyways, it's clever, it's funny, it's well delivered. Like this whole verse here, even though it's a Kendrick diss, it's just a perfect little chunk of Coleness. And then later he talks about being broke when he's young. Mom's was broke my whole adolescence, never had a lesson. Nice idea. It's nice because it helps you to connect. I was lucky enough I went to cello lessons for a while. I mean, my family had enough money to send me to lessons. It was mostly a question of neglect and not wanting to deal with driving me places. But certainly I took my kids to many lessons, and that is a privilege, and that's a sign of success. And to focus on that really does show an interesting side of his life. And then he just goes on and on saying, I'm one of those ones. Then we get to the best side.
Okay, so I don't edit my videos, right?
Pie.
So what's going on? There's going to be a couple edits coming up here. So I totally missed the transphobic content of the song Pie. And so when I released my video, a couple people mentioned it, and so I made an addendum. And that was fine, but I actually think even though it's going to totally screw up my algorithm, seriously, it's like realistically, it is going to cost me thousands of views, erasing the old version and putting up a new version that's basically the same. YouTube hates it when you do this stuff, but I don't like being a bad ally. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to insert that addendum right here. I also am going to edit out the part where I imply that all of Daylight's lyrics are actually by J. Cole. I really goofed up on this Pie thing, but it's my only hope that, I'm like J. Cole, because I say when I do things wrong. Anyways, so here is my original addendum to the original video and why I scrapped the whole damn thing and re-uploaded it. The Google be damned. So anyways, all right, here's Bo so you don't get too mad at me. Addendum time. Okay, I messed up some stuff when I talked about my favorite song on the album, Pie. First of all, it turns out my favorite part of the album was the interplay between Daylight and Ab-Soul. I messed up. I somehow thought it was J. Cole. It's weird. They don't even sound that similar. That's my first goof. You have to apologize. My baby's playing right over there. So that was my first mistake. But my bigger mistake was that, I got to that line about didn't like the line, I illiterate, like I couldn't read it. And I just kind of stopped there. And I didn't pick up on the trans-related lines. I'm going to call them, okay, they are, first of all, why didn't I pick up on them? It's just what happened, like I heard that other line, and then, that's part of the nature of privilege and not being othered is when other people get othered, you have to choose sometimes to hear it. And you can just go your whole life and not notice these things and just feel totally fine about the suffering of others because it doesn't impact you, right? So that's probably what happened. But I want to talk about these lines now that we're here, okay? Now that we're in the addendum, which are, I believe, in this order. 1, misogynist. 2, transphobic. 3, misguided, trying to be too clever. Happens to everybody. I have many times tried to be too clever and got myself into a mess of trouble, so there you go. Oh man, I have to change a diaper. Stinks like my takes, huh? Is it a commentary? Yeah. Okay, so in order to address the lines in Pi, I think the best thing to do would be to address what Thunder3034 just left, like 8 minutes ago on the video. This is a comment that they left where they address the fact that I don't talk about this line. Now, I think what's most interesting about this line, we'll talk about it, is that it's not like it is attack helicopter level bad. It's not like it is explicitly super duper anti-trans in its very nature. But as Thunder is going to point out, it's actually about what's implied. Anyways, Thunder says it better than I'm going to say it, so let's listen to Thunder. I can't say I'm not upset at J. Cole after listening to this mixtape. I understand it's not everyone's job to tackle the pie bar, and I empathize with wanting to enjoy good parts of something and not worry about the bad parts. I don't even know if the line I don't know if the line is J. Cole being a raging transphobic, but it only works through the same transphobic rhetoric that is way too prevalent in the media landscape at the moment. Ding, ding, ding. That's the whole point. The line only works through a transphobic lens. So it doesn't matter if J. Cole's not being transphobic. It only works through that lens. People online are defending it, and that's the most dangerous thing about it. And that's what really sucks about the world right now. If we could just say, yeah, no, that's not the best. It's probably not the worst either, but it's not the best, and it's important we don't let things like that fly because we have to show people's personhood. That someone who's a popular figure can say a line like that, and there are people who think it's funny or justifiable or normal instead of weird as fuck. I am a trans person. I was listening to the mixtape on Friday because I heard 7 Minute Drill and thought it rang hollow, but I wanted to understand it in the context of the album. I heard that line, understood for what it was, transphobic rhetoric, and still texted other trans friend of mine to get a second opinion. I want to put emphasis on that I'm trans. I understand the line only makes sense if you subscribe to bioessentialism, which I do not. In case you don't know, my channel is very explicitly pro-trans rights. Beyond trans rights or human rights, I try to cover trans musicians and treat trans musicians with the level of understanding and attention that they deserve. And I think I am one of the better places in YouTube, at least as far as cis commentators on trans cultures. I try to be one of the best and most comprehensive. Obviously, I goofed up by not even noticing this, but that's what this whole addendum's about. So bioessentialism is bunk on all levels. It's all bunk. Even going beyond the trans thing, going with parenting. You don't owe your parents anything. That's what I believe. Your parents owe you everything, okay? You like a step-parent more than your parent, then fuck that parent. They're not your parent anymore. That's what I believe. So I am super against bioessentialism on all fronts, okay? But obviously right now we're talking about trans rights. I still ask for a second opinion. I shouldn't have to, but when so few people are acknowledging the line in their praising of the album, some are even praising the line itself, it makes me, as a trans person, doubt whether I understand the line. I fully do. I'm not upset at you for not catching the line. That's gracious. But I'd really like you to consider how missing the line and not acknowledging it at all contributes to the culture that allows him to write it in the first place. At some level, on some degree, Cole has an amount of disrespect for trans people to write and say that bar. No amount of trans people telling him how hurtful it is going to make him respect them more, and it's unlikely that you could either. But it's not just about getting through to J. Cole, it's about getting people like you, cis people who might not have caught the bar and think that Pie is the best song on the album, parentheses, and I can acknowledge the first half is pretty good, and people like Cole who think the line is fine. It would have felt so good and validating for me to watch this analysis and hear you take a second or even a minute just to acknowledge how gross it is for J. Cole to be calling trans a choice, calling trans men less manly than cis men, and imply that trans men will secretly always be pussies, parentheses, women. Absolutely. So hopefully this is good and validating, this addendum here. It's important not to speak over marginalized voices, to let more knowledgeable voices lead the conversation. That's what I'm trying to do, Thunder. That's why I'm letting you take the lead here on this video. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't also be in the conversation. That's absolutely right. Personally, I'd be a bit disappointed if you didn't acknowledge the line. It's fucked up in the comments, but not in the video because you do have a platform. But I also don't know you and shouldn't let one person's opinion dictate what you do or don't do. No, I'm not beholden to Thunder 3034. I'm not under the thumb of Big Thunder, okay? I happen to agree with Big Thunder that I should have mentioned this. Oh, okay, where are we here? Even if you don't have the most nuanced breakdown of the line and the ideology behind it, it's only going to be beneficial for you and especially your audience to open yourself to the discussion. Here it is. At the end of the line, at the end of the day, it really tarnished my opinion of the mixtape, but I still enjoyed your analysis. AVAA, that's a gracious AVAA. All right, so let's really break down this line and what it is and what it isn't. Now, I'm not going to do a better job than Thunder because Thunder nailed it, but still, why don't we get to... I just had the lyrics up here. Okay, let's get to these lyrics and discuss how they are. Now, first of all, it seems like the general internet discourse is that this is in connection to Auntie Diaries. I don't quite buy that. That seems like that's a stretch, but it's possible. Okay. They plead the fifth. I'm seeing hints of a trans fella in cancel culture's vicinity. He's no killer, trust me. Beneath a chosen identity, there's still a pussy, period. Blood spilling monthly, rather weekly as a myriad of bodies drop. So they're on the third front, he is doing interesting stuff here with having, menstrual blood and shooting blood, and it's biologically interesting, I suppose. But the problems are this. First of all, there's the misogyny, which is an important thing here, implying that having a pussy, having a vagina, makes you weaker. I don't know how many women you actually know, but women are, in my experience, much tougher than men. That is just my experience. Based on what they've had to go through, based on the world that is around them, based on many different physical things that they have to go through. I understand that most men could win at most arm wrestling contests. I get that. And hey, if it comes down to it and it's a basketball competition, most likely the New York Knicks could beat the New York Liberty. Okay, I understand that. I'm not trying to say that there are no differences, but and it's a very dangerous and bad thing, right? It's a very dangerous and bad thing to use the term pussy as an insult to a man, implying that being a woman is a problem. And then there's this thing where there is something interesting. This is the third part of him being too clever, because there is something interesting around the theme of pretending to be something that you're not. Like, the insult here is actually, it's almost more insulting because it's not as stupid as it could possibly be, but it's that word chosen identity. That is the part that makes all of this as dangerous as it could possibly be. Because it may be true that some men have vaginas, okay? That may be true, right? That has been true for centuries, and the truth of it has been in public discourse and started to be accepted over the last decade, and hopefully in time we will understand that idea, okay? That sometimes the reality of a person is not in line with their biology at birth, right? But it's not a choice. So that's the whole problem. That's the whole problem. Trans men do not wake up and say, you know what? I would like to be a man. That's not it. They're born and they are men. And then they say, oh, all this biological stuff is at odds with the truth of who I am. So they try to change their appearance in a way that makes them more in line with how they feel, with how they are. It's not a choice any more than you can be gay. You can't choose to be gay. You can't choose to be straight. So that's what I would have said had I noticed that line, okay? His album dropped, it was trash, I literate like I can't spell it. I saw that and then I just stopped. And why didn't I notice the rest? I don't know. I just didn't. There's like more basketball lines. I'm looking through the rest of the lines, making sure there's nothing else I'm missing here. How many verses of the year is Cole going to write? That's how it ends. Not this one. All right. Well, anyways, thank you to Thunder. Thank you to all for this. If you are mad at me and you want to unsubscribe because you think, oh my God, this is so bullshit. I can't believe this old cis dude is doing this. That's valid and that's fine and that's fair. Like I'm not even going to tell you not to. What I would hope is that this kind of openness to growing and being more understanding of the sort of inherent biases that we have is the path forward. I think the path forward is this video, is this weird conversation with Thunder, okay? I think that's the way forward, but what do I know? All right, well, I'll get back to the video. Did I mention the basketball thing? That he actually went to St. John's for like just academic scholarship, not on a basketball scholarship. That was another mistake I made. But that's just, I know it looks bad, right? Because it's a white guy saying the black guy must play basketball. But that's, if there's any stereotype that I'm falling prey to, it's that he's as tall as my brothers, 6'5", and he's from North Carolina. And the other thing is that like, I think he has played some like semi-professional basketball or something, and he had like the basketball net on the front of his album. So like, it's not great that I made that mistake. But it's also, it's not out of nowhere. I mean, he did have a basketball net on fire, and he did go to St. John's University. And there's not like that. I don't know why you would go to St. John's University from North Carolina unless you were brought there for some reason. And I assumed that would be a good reason. But anyways, all right. We got through enough of my inherent cis-white biases here. My baby's just over there playing. What's really cool is that my baby's sitting over there playing, doing a little puzzle. And the world that she's going to grow up in is going to be better than the one that exists right now. Even with all these struggles, she's going to have a dad who fights with these things and struggles with these things and tries to understand issues like trans rights, which I never even thought of until I was in my 30s. Okay? Like, it wasn't even in my brain as an idea. It wasn't even that I was transphobic, because I didn't even know it was a question. And she's going to grow up in a world where it is hopefully not an issue anymore, where it's not even discussed. That's the hope. God damn, I just love talking. I better go hang out with my baby. All right, bye. Thanks again. Produced by Daylight, Daylyt. Who is this guy? Never heard of him. Maybe he's been on 1,000 songs I've heard before. Maybe you're writing an angry comment right now. Please do. Please wake old Rip Van Robert Van Winkle up, because I've been under a tree asleep for 20 years. I've been missing what's going on in hip-hop. This Daylight guy produced the hell out of this track. It's not like it's totally new. I've never heard anything like it, but it's this great 70s soulful production. It develops really nice with this little bass line that gets teased, the way these drums kind of extend out. It's a perfect place to have these songs. And then all of a sudden, we have J. Cole with Ab-Soul. Ab-Soul. Not to be confused with Ab-Sol, my least favorite Pokemon. Stupid asymmetrical weirdo. I don't know if he's doing it to defend his man, but Ab-Soul has the best verse on the whole album.
Real state of mind, you need equity, let the beat build. Poison in my cup, I need to refill. I feel it in my gut, Newton's meek still. I inherit the earth like three wise men pulled up to cherish my birth. They placed me in a manger, wasn't that major at first, but what a mess I'll leave. I'm the savior at work. I ain't saying I'm Jesus. Oh my God. I'm the savior at work. It's just an awesome line. But then later, what makes it better is the back and forth. Again, J. Cole talks about Plan B, which, hey, it's an election year. 51% of the country wants to make Plan B illegal, so it's probably good that we're advertising it now, okay? But this whole line, everything I say is dope. Is that a microphone or Contra? Bands in my pocket. See what they told Malcolm X to do with his hands? That shit was out of pocket. Just take it easy, okay? Just like dope, microphone, or Contra. Like that could be contraband, or that could be in reference to the Nicaraguan revolutionaries who the American government funded and whose drug trafficking operations they permitted in the American inner city to create the crack epidemic, which those same politicians would use to demonize and incarcerate massive swaths of the American population. That's what a Contra is. So is he talking about that? Well, probably not, because he's just talking about bands and all that stuff. It's not like he's on some kind of black militant stuff. Oh, wait a minute. See what they told Malcolm X to do with his hands? That shit was out of pocket. So, I take lyrics, right? I take lyrics straight from Lyric Genius, and I can tell in my notes when they're annotated or not. First of all, this Contra note here doesn't say anything about the Contras. It just says contraband. At least it didn't talk about the Konami code. But Malcolm X, hands out of pocket, that's what was said when Malcolm X was shot. A guy in the audience stands up and says, "Get your hands out of my pocket. Get your hands out of my pocket." Now, I don't know if that's actually what happened. I wasn't there. But that was popularized in Spike Lee's movie, Malcolm X, which if you haven't seen, what the fuck is wrong with you? I'm sorry. But if you haven't taken the time, I mean, you should definitely read Autobiography of Malcolm X. Like, as far as, like, the most important books you can read, that's top 5. Okay? Like, oh, what should I read? Autobiography of Malcolm X, right up there. Other one, definitely see the movie. See the movie, too. Denzel Washington's amazing in it. It's an amazing story. It's an American story. It's as important as you can get. But that's dramatized very well with that scene at the Audubon Ballroom in Harlem, right? Yeah. And then I thought it was over, and then he comes back. And I think this is a tacked on verse. And again, this is why the commentators are being too lazy. His album dropped. It was trash. I litter it like I can't spell it. Such a fine line between stupid and clever. I can't quite tell, but there it is. Super long song. This is actually the longest song. Then we get to stealth mode again with Boss. Very drill sounding hi-hats. Is it just me, or is the drill sound old? And the trap sound isn't. You tell me. I don't know how this is possible, because trap has been around longer than drill. But I hear drill, I'm like, ooh, that's aging poorly. But I hear the trap beats, I'm like, yep, that's right now. Anyways. And this is where he talks again about his beef. Been considering extended an olive branch, building bridges with ns that burn them. Life's too short to hold on to things. And that's what he wanted to do. He didn't want to fight. He's a reluctant guy. And this is just friendly. This is just a warning shot shooting over his head, except for the fact that he then said the short arms thing in the facade, and he accidentally ricocheted off and went into the dude's leg. Next track is 3001. This album is good. Okay? I'm not saying it's great. I'm not saying it's as good as the last J. Cole project. I'm not saying it could even smell Schoolboy Q's jockstrap. But I will say it is a good rap album, because there's a lot of good songs and a lot of good bars, like 3001 by Mike Will made it. Cool, distorted chorus, and here he is back to telling the truth. I don't need 10 cars. And then he has a great anti-weed verse, which, my man, thank you. I need more soldiers in this, hey, maybe self-medicating is not a great plan. You shouldn't make your identity around things that make you sadder in the long run. And make you sort of emotionally dependent on stuff outside of yourself. You know what I mean? You're not a bad person. No, obviously you're not bad. Everyone does stuff that maybe they shouldn't do anymore. And that's one thing that a lot of people, maybe they shouldn't do it anymore. And you shouldn't have to be like a narc to say that, but that's the problem. You say that, it's like, narc, you judging me? I don't judge anybody. How are we going to get through this world? You know what I'm saying? How are we going to get through this world from beginning to middle to the end without being miserable? Some people choose to smoke weed. I happen to think that might be creating more problems than it solves. And that's what J. Cole puts in this verse, which grants him a lot of grace in my part. He talks about it because he has too many blessings to be depressed, went from stress to being blessed. Now the recipe, just keep the fuck shit from my desk. I don't want shit but my breath. I don't want shit but my fam. Thought I used super glue, how'd this gun stick to my hand? I don't even tote no pistol, but that shit sounded hard. I don't give a fuck about lying once I learn these fraud. I'm finna burn these down. Bring me that Ernie char. I'm at the crossroads of the lost souls. And this is a great verse because it's also very Kendricky. Right? He's talking about gratitude. He's talking about appreciation. He's talking about life in a bigger sense. And he's saying, why do I need 10 cars when I can only drive but one? Trade the truth in Ibiza. I can pronounce that word properly. Trey the Truth is a Houston rapper, and he's talking about like this nice kind of waltz thing here. Again, talking about being spoiled by private jets. Kind of a triplet flow here. Again, his strength is about his honesty. And in this song, he talks about having some bad choruses and just being like, I know. I got some, man, I put out some bad music. Seriously? J. Cole? More like Jermid Cole, right? Like, he might as well call an album Jermid Cole. He might as well do that. That was my son's friends used to call Jermaine Cole Jermid Cole to piss off his other friends who love J. Cole. That's not my joke. And then we get to 7-minute drill, which is not 7 minutes long, mercifully. I think the first half, okay, Anthony Fantano and FT Signifier correctly identified the first half of this song, the beat is trash. Correctly observed. It's produced by T-, who produced a lot of the other songs on the album, who's a better producer than this. I think this is intentionally bad. I think the first half is intentionally bad to make it seem lame, to make it seem like an exercise, to make it just sort of seem like here's this thing that we're doing. We're doing this thing. It's a drill. What are we talking about? Are we talking about the game? No, we're talking about a drill. We're talking about practice. What are we talking about? We're not talking about actual rhyming. We're not talking about actually rapping about. This is a drill. This is practice that we're talking about. He makes it clear. He undercuts the whole thing by calling it a drill. Now, I know also it sounds kind of like a drill thing. And also drilling is killing somebody. I know, but I don't read it that way. He's still doing shows, but fell off like The Simpsons. Again, The Simpsons had a pretty good run, and their stuff is still pretty good. The main problem is, like, it doesn't make any sense. Your first shit was classic. Your last shit was tragic. Your second shit put us to sleep, but they gassed it. Your third shit was massive, and that was your prime. I was trailing right behind. Now I just hit mine. But it's not clear if he's including Section 80. So if he's not including Section 80, then that means that Good Kid is classic. And then To Pimp Butterfly put people to sleep. And then Damn was his prime. You know, okay, I buy that. But that's not his first album. His first album is Section 80. So then the Good Kid, Mad City put people to sleep? Ding, ding, ding. I don't think so. I mean, I don't know. He should have stuck with the next lines. Now I'm in front of the line with a comfortable lead. How ironic. As soon as I got it, now he wants something with me. You know, I like this idea because he's telling the truth. That Kendrick is intentionally targeting these two guys because they are at the top. Because Kendrick is trying to get something going. He wants to be starting something because there's nothing right now. What do we have? How many cars do I have? How many ice do I have in my teeth? How pink is my drink? So what if we get some of the best boxers in the world in the ring with full headgear? Yeah. He's averaging one hard verse like every 30 months or something. that's actually maybe a hit too. That's maybe a hit too, because it does feel, because like the control verse felt like it sort of came out of nowhere, and this seemed out of nowhere. If he wasn't dissing, then we wouldn't be discussing him. I don't think that's true, but it's interesting. And then we get a beat switch, and then we get Conductor Williams. If you haven't seen my video on the top 5 producers of the moment, I put Conductor tied at number 2 with Nicholas Craven. Just a beautiful beat. Just why? Like, why are mainstream rappers so scared of actually giving all of these great underground producers the bag? Drake uses Conductor Williams for one song and gives the rest to, like, Benny X and 40. I mean, they're fine. They're good producers and stuff. But, like, what? Why? Like, either don't use Conductor Williams at all, or how about a Drake and Conductor Williams album? It takes Conductor Williams, and this is true, exactly 8 minutes to record 10 songs that are better than most things you've ever heard. So he could do it. And you know, anyways. And this has that verse where he really talks about, this is the second half is better. He's like really going on the body bag. He's really like kind of in it. He's going a lot harder. The constant facade, that whole thing about how everyone wants him to give a toxic reply, and he's hesitant. I love my brother, I'm not gonna lie. That's the headgear, okay? That's making sure you don't get hit on the knuckles. This is merely a warning shot to back people down. So there's the review. It's a good album. I hope you found my long-winded, scholarly analysis of this fun and interesting. And I know I didn't have to talk about Napoleon III and Marx, but I just thought, well, what if I could share that information in a way that makes sense? Because it does make sense. This is kind of farce. But, oh, these are my Patreons, by the way. They help me buy money. They helped me buy music. And Zach wanted a special shout out on this one. So there you go, Zach. Whew. All right. Well, I think my baby's napping, so I'll make sure it's okay. Let's see. So we got Bo over there, and we got Toby. He's napping over there. He's thinking about licking his own penis, but he decided not to. Gotta holster that tongue there, Toby. No one wants to see that. All right. Well, until next time, tell me, what did you think? What did you think of the beef? Who's going to win? Is Kendrick going to clap back? What about Drake? All the drama and more on Skye Laura Ross. There's the gamer.